The day had that golden glow that only early summer manages to pull off, warm enough to coax you outside, but not so hot that you immediately regret it. The kind of day where the sky is an endless canvas of pale blue, with a few lazy clouds drifting by as if they've decided there's no reason to rush. Mark, my husband, had flown out the previous morning for a week-long conference in Seattle. He'd left in the half-light of dawn, suitcase wheels whispering over the tile as I stood in the doorway with coffee in hand. The kids were already gone for the weekend. They'd been looking forward to their stay with my in-laws in Vermont for weeks. That left me with something rare: an empty house. No schedules, no obligations, just me. The silence was almost a luxury. I took my time that morning, moving slowly, savoring the unhurried pace. I fixed myself a glass of iced tea, tall and cold, the condensation trickling down the sides in delicate rivulets. The pool shimmered in the backyard, sunlight playing on the surface in tiny, shifting diamonds. I set up the lounge chair just so, angling it toward the sun. My bikini turquoise, simple, and just snug enough to remind me I still had some shape left after 2 kids hugged my skin. I stretched out, the lounger creaking softly beneath me, and closed my eyes. The warmth seeped into my shoulders, my legs, the tips of my toes. The air carried that faint, earthy scent of freshly cut grass, mixed with the sweet tang of blooming flowers from the garden. Somewhere down the block, a lawnmower hummed steadily. Birds chattered in the trees, each chirp distinct against the otherwise hushed afternoon. It was one of those rare, slow moments where everything felt balanced. And then, something shifted. It was so faint at first, I almost ignored it. A prickle along the back of my neck, a subtle alertness that pulled me out of my haze. That strange, instinctive awareness of being watched. My eyes opened, scanning without moving my head much. The fence around our yard stood tall and solid, the wood weathered but sturdy. Nothing out of place there. My gaze drifted upward, to the second-story windows of the house behind ours, the Johnsons' place. That's when I caught it, a flicker. The curtain in one of the upstairs windows shifted, just slightly. Not in the way a breeze might move it, but in that slow, deliberate way that comes from a human hand. I almost dismissed it. Almost. But something in the back of my mind held on to the thought. The Johnsons were friendly enough, Steve and Carol. Both polite, both the type to wave when they pulled into the driveway. They had 2 kids, their daughter, already off at college, and their son, Brandon, still in high school. Brandon was 18 now. I remembered him as a quiet, polite boy, the kind who would mumble hi when passing me on the sidewalk but wouldn't say much else. I told myself it was nothing, a coincidence. And yet, as I settled back into my chair, I found myself glancing at that window again. The following afternoon, the sun seemed to pour down in a steady, golden stream. I reached for a bikini I hadn't worn in years, a deep red one with TIs at the sides. It felt like a small indulgence, a private test of confidence. Out by the pool, I sank into the lounger, the sun kissing my skin. I tried to focus on the book in my hands, but my attention kept drifting toward the Johnsons' house, the same window, the same flicker of movement. This time, I didn't look away immediately. I let my sunglasses hide my eyes, holding the page of my book in place without reading it. Later, as I made my way along the side of the house to check on the pool filter, I nearly collided with someone rounding the corner. "Whoa, sorry, Mrs. Carter?" he said quickly. It was Brandon. "Hi, Brandon," I replied, steadying myself. "Didn't see you there." Up close, I noticed the differences. He'd grown taller, his shoulders broader. His voice, deeper now, carried a low, hesitant tone. His eyes flicked to mine and then away, a faint blush creeping up his cheeks. My mom sent me over," he said. "Wanted to see if you needed any help since, your husband's out of town." I hesitated, caught between polite dismissal and curiosity. "Actually, yeah, the patio umbrella's been stuck, couldn't close it last night." His expression brightened just slightly. "Sure, I can take a look." We walked into the backyard, and I watched as he worked, the ease with which he handled the mechanism, the way his forearms flexed as he tugged at the fabric and joints. It took him less than a minute to fix. "Thanks," I said with a smile. "Want some lemonade?" A few minutes later, we were sitting by the pool's edge, our feet brushing the cool water. He told me about his plans, maybe joining the Navy, maybe community college first. I shared a little about the quiet of the house, how peaceful it felt, and how strange. "It's nice sometimes," I said, "but it can be lonely." He nodded slowly. "I know what that feels like. Something passed between us, then not in words, but in the subtle shift of the air. The days that followed were different. I started noticing him more often. Out front washing the car, the sunlight catching on the water droplets running down the hood. Mowing the lawn in the heat, his shirt tossed carelessly aside. Our glances across the fence lasted a little too long. My sunbathing sessions stretched out further. I found myself moving more slowly when I walked to the pool, lingering by the water's edge, stretching in ways I didn't strictly need to. Nothing happened, but something was building. That Friday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened it too. Find Brandon standing there, holding a Tupperware container. My mom made cookies, he said, grinning. Thought I'd bring some over. Come in, I said without thinking. Inside, the cool air felt almost sharp against my skin after being in the sun. I was wearing a soft tank top and shorts, casual, but hardly conservative. We ended up in the kitchen, leaning against opposite sides of the island. We talked easily, our laughter coming quicker than it probably should have. You look happier this week, he said after a moment. I tilted my head, curious. Do I? Yeah, he said. I've seen you out by the pool. You smile more when no one's around. I stepped closer, my hands resting lightly on the counter. Sometimes the quiet reminds you who you are. His gaze didn't waver. Or maybe, who you wish you could be. The space between us seemed to contract, the air tightening. You've been watching me, I said softly. He didn't deny it. Yes. The rest unfolded quickly, like something inevitable. When it was over, he left quietly, the door closing behind him with barely a sound. I stood there in the hallway, my pulse still pounding, not just from what had happened, but from how easily it had happened. That summer became a blur of silent choices and blurred lines. Glances from across the fence, a knock on the door when no one else was home. Moments that lasted seconds but seemed to echo for hours afterward. I told myself it would end soon, that it was just curiosity. But deep down, I wasn't sure I wanted it to.